Welcome, everybody. My name is Meredith. Happy to be back here again to sit with you guys for a little Metta meditation tonight. Is anybody here for the first time tonight? Welcome. Anybody new to meditation or to Metta meditation? Okay. Let's see. All right. Well, welcome. And know that regardless of your experience, this meditation is guided, but it also includes some silent space to allow you to settle in. So in this class, I like to start initially by talking about the four Brahmaviharas and their near and far enemies, because I found that understanding them has helped me more closely identify what I'm feeling as I practice Metta. Sometimes I think it's easy for us to get a little confused by what we're feeling, or sometimes we can mislabel what we're feeling. So the four Brahmaviharas are the four emotional states of loving kindness, compassion, equanimity, and sympathetic joy. And in Buddhism, they're seen as interconnected, beneficial virtues. They're also called the immeasurables because they're meant to be cultivated without limit for the benefit of all beings. They're heart and mind qualities that Buddhists cultivate to promote well-being for themselves and others. And they're seen as supremely beneficial ways to interact with the world. They help us feel connection, and they help us to experience our interconnectedness with all beings. So we think of far enemies as opposites and near enemies as adjacent. So for instance, for loving kindness, the far enemy is ill will. It's pretty easy to figure out. But the near enemy is sentimentality or attachment. That's your own perceptions or feelings. So sometimes when we think we're experiencing loving kindness, what we're actually experiencing is our own feelings. And we'll come back to that. It'll make a little more sense. So for compassion, the far enemy is cruelty, and the near enemy is pity. For sympathetic joy, the far enemy is jealousy, and the near enemy is hypocrisy. And finally, for equanimity, which is mental calmness, composure, and evenness of temper, it's really emotional regulation. So the far enemy is hatred, and the near enemy is indifference. So in loving kindness meditation, the near and far enemies really help us to practice. For instance, when I ask you to think of or visualize a person who is very easy to love or who has deeply cared for you, you're going to use your own feelings and your perceptions from your experiences to locate that person, or a group of people if you choose to. It's your own experiences with them that have given you the label that this person is easy for you to love. But once you've used your feelings to locate them, while you're sending the good wishes and the goodwill, you need to transcend your feelings and perceptions about them, because that's your sentimentality or your attachment to them. And that's the near enemy. And you need to send the good wishes to them simply for their own sake, for who they are, not because of your feelings about them. So if it's confusing, think of how you would locate a person you dislike. It's the same thing. You'd find them by your feelings or perceptions about them. But once you locate them, you transcend your feelings and you send the wishes of goodwill to them for their sake as a human being, not based on your feelings about them. Because sometimes with people we don't like, what ends up happening is that the only way that we can send good wishes to them is by rationalizing why they are the way they are. Maybe they had a bad childhood. Maybe they've experienced trauma, whatever it is. We start to rationalize because that's how our brains work. And this often quickly puts you into feeling pity rather than genuine compassion. And pity is the near enemy of compassion. So just like with the person we love, We try to send good wishes to the disliked person, transcending our own feelings and focusing on them as a human being who deserves compassion, just as we deserve compassion. For the neutral person, remember that the near enemy of sympathetic joy is indifference. So once you've located your neutral person, be aware that you're sending the mantra of goodwill to them, because even though you have no feelings, good or bad, they can still receive your goodwill because they're a deserving human being of compassion and love. So the other thing I think it's worth mentioning before we get started is that this practice is not asking us to force generate or manufacture any feelings. I think people often hear loving kindness and they assume that the practice is asking us to generate warm, fuzzy feelings on command. And I think a lot of us can actually end up feeling tension and difficulty or resistance, especially when we're guided to send loving kindness to people we don't like, or even to ourselves sometimes. So it's an easy misunderstanding to have. But really, what I think is being asked of us is to strengthen our awareness of our shared existence with others, our interconnectedness, and the simple phrases we use to send loving kindness are the way that we do this. So throughout the meditation, we're cultivating our own understanding that none of us exists separately. And in Buddhism, we have these core concepts. You can ask me later if you don't know what they are. But we have core concepts of dependent origination and emptiness. And they both demonstrate that our existence is not based on fixed permanent elements, but rather interconnected and constantly changing elements. So they help us see that our whole idea about ourself doesn't really reflect what Buddhism ultimately calls true reality. The Buddha came to understand that we do not have a fixed permanent self that is independent from everything and everyone else. We're all interconnected. So by spending less time thinking of ourselves and others in ways that creates more separation and isolation, that us versus them mentality, if we spend some time exploring our connections to others, this sort of organically over time generates within us a natural expression of more loving kindness in our lives. Slowly, as we plant those seeds of goodwill and we experiment using different groups of people to focus on and meditate on, we begin to experience what it's like to send genuine goodwill to others regardless of our relationship to them. And that's the development of equanimity. We can recognize our feelings and still send loving kindness to anybody, not because of our feelings about them, but because they as fellow human beings deserve compassion and goodwill just as we do. And then when we do this, we're also growing compassion and loving kindness within ourselves. So let's get started. What time is it? Where are we? 7:08. Okay, we got plenty of time. So as we move through the groups tonight, just do your best once you've located who you want to concentrate on, and focus on maintaining those wishes of goodwill and see if your relationship or feelings about the person or group of people can take a back seat. Just transcend your feelings about them and send out the good wishes to them independent of your feelings. So first, we're going to do loving kindness toward ourselves. And if you find this hard, don't worry. We'll move on to something easier. The next one is we're going to send loving kindness to somebody that we find easy to love. And then next, it will be a group of people that we feel neutral about, which means you don't have a positive or a negative feeling associated with them. And then finally, we'll send our good wishes to a person that we find difficult. And just so that you know, this difficulty is something that you can define for yourself. And depending upon how you're feeling tonight, you can decide how difficult and challenging you want that to be. And then at the end, we'll expand our meditation to include all people, animals, and sentient beings, however that manifests for you in your mind. So before we begin, find a seated posture that you can sit comfortably in for the duration of the meditation. Typically, if you're in a chair, both feet are flat on the ground. Try to hold your spine fairly straight and just be as comfortable as possible. I will guide us as we begin, and there will be some periods of silence for you to settle into. but you can trust my voice to guide us through each of the transitions. As we begin, if you'd like, you can gently close your eyes. If closing the eyes doesn't work for you for any reason, you're welcome to just direct your gaze downward. Now, whether your eyes are open or closed, begin to notice any area of your body that's holding tension. Try to soften and release any tension that you're holding on to. Come into your body and allow yourself to settle into this space. Let's start by taking 3 slow, deep breaths together. And when you're ready, return to the normal rhythm of your breath. Begin to gently notice the flow of your natural breath going in and out through the nostrils or in and out through the mouth. There's no need to modify your breath. Just stay with your natural breath. Notice your posture. While remaining comfortable, try keeping the crown of your head reaching up toward the sky, your back straight, and your shoulders relaxed. Once you're ready, begin to think of and visualize yourself. Imagine or picture yourself in your mind in any way that feels good for you. It doesn't matter how you picture yourself. You could visualize yourself as a child or as you are today. There's no right or wrong way. Just do what comes to you. If you're having difficulty visualizing an image, try instead to conjure a feeling or a sense of yourself. Whatever has come to you, hold on to it and repeat to yourself in your mind, may I be safe and happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease and gratitude. May I be safe and happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease and gratitude. May I be safe and happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease and gratitude. Now gently let that visualization of yourself go and bring to mind a person or a group of people that you care for deeply or that you find easy to love. Maybe it's someone or a group of people who have cared deeply for you. It can be anyone who easily brings up feelings of love, kindness, and ease. It doesn't matter how this person or group comes to your mind, whether you visualize them or conjure a sense of them. There's no right or wrong way. Just take them into your mind, stay with them, and repeat to yourself, may you be safe and happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease and gratitude. May you be safe and happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease and gratitude. May you be safe and happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease and gratitude. Now gently let that visualization go. And when you're ready, come to imagine someone or a group of people you have neutral feelings about. Maybe you don't know them well. Maybe you don't really know them at all. Maybe you see them around sometimes at a store or a restaurant or at a gas station. Maybe they're completely unknown to you, somewhere in the world. A person you saw once while traveling, or a person you make up who likely exists somewhere on the planet. They can be anyone who doesn't bring up strong positive or negative emotions for you. Visualize them or conjure a sense of them. Hold that vision or sense of them in your mind and extend to them the same exact wishes of loving kindness. May you be safe and happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease and gratitude. May you be safe and happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease and gratitude. May you be safe and happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease and gratitude. Gently let the image of your neutral person go and begin to visualize or conjure a sense of a person or a group of people that you find difficult to love or who bring up difficult, conflicting, or negative emotions for you. It can be anyone, and you can decide how much of a challenge you want to make this for yourself tonight. Whoever they are, visualize them or conjure a sense of them. Hold what's coming to you in your mind. Extend to them the same exact wishes of loving kindness. And repeat to yourself, may you be safe and happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease and gratitude. May you be safe and happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease and gratitude. May you be safe and happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease and gratitude. Finally, now, begin to let that image of your difficult person go. And when you're ready, gently come to imagine all people, animals, and sentient beings, however that manifests for you in your mind, in any way you can picture it. This can be challenging, but give yourself a minute to try. It might be more of a sense of all beings rather than a clear image. Whatever it is, try to follow what's coming to you. Hold on to it and extend the same exact wishes of loving kindness by repeating to yourself, may all beings be safe and happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings live with ease and gratitude. May all beings be safe and happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings live with ease and gratitude. May all beings be safe and happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings live with ease and gratitude. Everybody good? Does anybody have any questions about anything they experienced? New people, anything challenging for you? Yeah.
I noticed right at the end when you were supposed to be thinking of all beings, I was doing most of that meditation and you went, oh wait, I'm included in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I think sometimes we forget and we try to like astral project ourselves out into the cosmos or something, and it doesn't really have to be that complicated all the time.
Yeah.
But that's interesting that you brought that up. Anybody else have trouble with a difficult person? No, you're good. You're all good with your difficult people. How about the neutral person? Anybody have trouble finding a neutral person? Sometimes, yeah. That's why I tend to like almost now, I almost like just make up a random person that probably exists somewhere on the planet that I have absolutely no connection to whatsoever, because I spend a lot of time panicking, thinking, who's my meditation object for this one? Like, I can't think of anybody that I'm absolutely neutral to, because even people that we really don't know, oftentimes we have feelings about them based on, whether they're pleasant, whether we think they're pleasant or whether they're negative. And then you get it's not worth getting jumbled up in your head about. So sometimes I just make up a random little boy in Tunisia or somewhere, that I've never met, but probably exists. And I just focus on, that instead, because it just saves me from stressing out about it. Anything else before I tell you a story of something weird that happened to me this week? I've been kind of going back and forth actually today about whether I was actually going to talk about this, but the more I thought about it, the more I decided I was actually going to talk about it. So bear with me. I had an interesting experience over this past weekend, and it was, I guess it could have been an unpleasant experience, but actually it wasn't. And what happened was it made me realize the impact that meditation and metta meditation in general, and specifically, have had on my life. Because sometimes we practice meditation and we're like, what is this doing for me? How is this impacting me? And then something will happen and you'll be different than you know that you would have been different before. And then you go, oh, okay, something's actually happening. And that's what happened to me. So through this experience, it got me thinking about delusion. And the first thing we need to know is that when we talk about delusion in Buddhism, in Buddhist terms, we are not talking about being mentally unwell like we would be in psychological terms. In Buddhism, delusion is a misunderstanding of reality, a lack of wisdom, and it's a primary cause of our suffering. It's often connected to our attachment of our mistaken sense of self or our ego. It's also the mistaken belief that that what we perceive is reality, when really what we perceive is just our perception of reality. So delusion can manifest as ignorance, and I don't mean ignorance in like a nasty way. It just means you are ignoring reality or you don't understand. Confusion, or a distorted perception of situations, all which inevitably lead us right back to our attachments, our cravings, and ultimately all the suffering that we experience in our lives. So what does this mean in our everyday lives? Well, at the core of it, I think that when we experience delusion, we find ourselves in a state of not knowing what we don't know. We are also not knowing what we actually do know. And sometimes it's not even knowing what questions to ask. Delusions can involve a lack of attention, where you're lost in thought or you're otherwise distracted and you don't even notice what's happening, but you think you do. It can also include clinging to rigid stories or preconceptions and unproven assumptions that we make up in our heads. And these distort our experiences of others and situations. People in delusion often focus on superficial things like possessions or self-image for lasting satisfaction. And they fail to recognize that looking for happiness in those types of things is kind of a surefire way to guarantee yourself a seat on the struggle bus. Because when you cling to those types of things, it will eventually result in suffering when you lose them or they change. I also think delusion can come with a sense or feelings of apprehension or uncertainty or insecurity. And delusion can have the aspect of simply not knowing what we're feeling. And then I found out that there have actually been scientific studies that have shown that people can be filled with emotional reaction as measured by all of their physiological responses. But even then, they can be oblivious to their emotions. They might not even be aware that they're experiencing anger or anxiety. And both of those are emotions that can be really difficult to face. Their self-awareness isn't extending to those feelings. And the studies have shown that like 1 in 6 people can experience this. And that's an awful lot of people running around out there, not in touch with what they're feeling inside. So if we can't actually open ourselves up to the range of feelings inside ourselves, including the painful ones, how can we sense when someone else might be feeling what anyone else might be feeling in any particular situation? If we can't open to our own suffering, how can we open to the suffering of others? And this seems important to me because at the root of our ability to care for others is empathy and compassion. So when we start developing self-awareness and some self-compassion, and rather than believing the stories we make up in our head all day long, we begin to recognize maybe the feelings that arise from our thoughts, especially when our expectations or wants aren't met, might not be reality. And maybe we start by recognizing that rather than jumping to conclusions, we should ask questions. So back to what happened to me this past weekend. So somebody sent me a text. It was a picture with a 2-word description. It was not important. And that was it. Now, the person who sent the text is a friend of a friend, and I don't know them that well. And the text was sent to me at 6 p.m. on a Saturday night, and I was out for the evening with my husband. And my phone was in my handbag, so I did not see the text. So by the time I got home, I was tired and I went to bed. I still hadn't seen the text. I woke up at 2 a.m. because that's what happens. And I went looking for my phone to find out what time it was. And that's when I saw the text. So I think you can probably see where this is going. I was not going to respond to the text at 2 a.m. And actually, the text didn't even seem to require any sort of response. Anyway, the next morning I got up, I went to yoga, I went home, I showered, I came here for the 11 o'clock class. I left here, I went grocery shopping, I came home. It was like a whole thing for the whole day. I made some dinner for my husband because I was going out to dinner that night with, guess who? The person who sent me the text, and her husband, and our mutual friend. So we get to dinner, and everything seems fine, and nobody says anything about the text. And after dinner, my friend asked me to drive him home, even though he had come with the other couple. And on the way home, he proceeds to tell me that he is in the doghouse with this woman who sent me the text. And he cannot figure out why. He has no idea why. He has tried to figure out and talk with her in the afternoon about what she was upset about. Can't figure it out. But during the course of their conversation, she mentions to him that I had not answered her text. And it must be because I do not like her and I am jealous of her. So my friend told her that he knew me pretty well and thought that she was misinterpreting the situation. And she disagreed and said that that's what her intuition was telling her, and he would not understand because he was a man. And you know what? As wild as all that was, I did not have a bad emotional reaction to that, to hearing it. Now, a couple years ago, if I had heard that, I would have become upset because I knew that it wasn't true. But this time, I wasn't. I didn't have any feelings of dislike or jealousy toward this woman at all. And I didn't even after hearing about it, because I simply knew that it wasn't true. It was her brain making up stories. She went there all by herself. Now, just so you know, after talking to my friend some more, it turns out that in the past, she has admitted having some feelings of jealousy about his other friends. So this was probably just some part of that. I don't know. But the important part of this is that the way I experienced this situation is completely different than I would have experienced it a couple of years ago. And on top of it, I still don't have any feelings of resentment toward her, even though what she said would have normally hurt my feelings. So I guess what I realized was that was her suffering, and I didn't need to make it mine. So tonight, when we had to meditate about a difficult person, I bet you can guess who I was thinking about during that. But I do feel compassion for people who feel bad because of the stories that they tell themselves in their own head. Because we're all those people sometimes. We've all jumped to conclusions or not paid attention, or we were confused, or we were driven by our cravings and attachments, and we just made ourselves miserable. So there you go. It starts with your own awareness and the understanding that as humans, we all have the same types of experiences. And from there, I think we can recognize what somebody else might be experiencing and practice true compassion rather than absorb a negative emotional experience and end up making ourselves completely miserable. And I can honestly tell you at this point that when I first started practicing Metta, I did not think this practice was for me at all. But clearly I was wrong, because this past weekend showed me that clear as day that I did not have to have a bad feeling because somebody else had a bad feeling. And I could see that she had a bad feeling all by herself. I was not involved in it at all. So that for me was a huge sort of awakening to what this practice has been doing for my ability to just sit and not instantly react to something that might be upsetting or negative. How much time do we have? Does anybody have any questions? We have about 9 minutes. Anybody have any questions about anything before we close? Yeah.
Well, kind of on the heels of your story, I know I'm hyperreactive. I mean, that's why I need something like this to learn. I have trouble with, just a quick for instance, I work for a crazy boss. She goes crazy, I go crazy because she went crazy. And strangely, the mental trap I keep getting stuck in is I have to care about what she's feeling because my existence is tied to how she perceives me.
Mm-hmm.
So I find it very hard to unhook. It almost feels dangerous. It feels like, oh, if I'm not paying attention to how she's thinking, I might not be making myself valuable to her in the right way, and maybe she, So I always have to think about, okay, unhook. But then I guess I'm left in a funny place of like, well, I guess I just let the chips fall. Like if she decides she doesn't like me, decides she wants to get rid of me, I just default to this like, well, I guess I'll be okay no matter what happens. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm trying to find like a internal place where I can let go and not be reactive to her reactivity and also feel okay. And it's strange, so I have to play this funny game.
It's like you're playing chess with yourself in your head.
Yeah.
I think sometimes if we just listen to what someone else is saying and recognize maybe whatever they're struggling with is coming out, and it may not always come out great. It may have nothing to do with you, but if you sit and listen and don't react so quickly, that might give you some more insight about which way to go based on what you can see she's reacting to, because it's probably not you most of the time. Because if it were, you'd be gone already. She would have fired you. You're still there and you're still working, and she's still losing her mind. That's, it's kind of like my friend here. She went down that hole all by herself. There was no basis of reality at all. And so, this just happened Sunday night. And so, my friend and I are sort of just sitting with it, waiting for her to calm down, take a little bit of space from it. Maybe it'll get revisited. They don't live here, which is they were just here visiting, and then they go back and forth between here and another state. So, it's not the end of the world, but somehow this woman decided that I did not like her because I didn't comment on a text. I mean, it was not anything that required a response, but I certainly wasn't going to answer at 2 a.m. And I knew I was having dinner with her the next day. But to go to that extent, that's reactive of something else. And I think for you, maybe you're dealing with somebody who's kind of spinning maybe about things that have nothing to do with you.
Yeah. I think that's all true, but I have my own history of patterns, and so that triggers my I've even tried being highly non-reactive in front of her, and she critiqued that. She took that as I don't care.
She wants something
She
from
wants
you.
me to be as activated as she is.
Yeah.
So it's difficult, but yeah, so that's why I go into this other place of maybe I can not react, just live with that, and whatever happens, happens. But anyway, but that is one of my difficult people, so, yeah.
Well, love and light.
I know.
The happier they are, the less they'll make you miserable. I don't know what else to tell you about that. But yeah, I mean, I think honestly, the more you sit with yourself and examine how your brain works, and, meditating this way makes you look at your reactions and your attachments to things. When we meditate, like for instance, if we do Zen meditation, we're sitting and we're focusing on our breath and we're letting thoughts come and go, but we're not actively following anything anywhere. But this kind of forces you to look at your feelings and your attachments, and whether you're actually being compassionate or something really close to compassionate, but maybe not. It's a little more analytical, I think. And it sort of helps you get to a place of like, am I making up a story in my head based on what I think? Or do I have all the information? Or could I ask a question? Rather than just connect dots in my head all by myself in a vacuum.
Yep. I mean, a question might be a good way to pattern break.
I mean, you can try different things and see,
Right.
It can only go so bad, right?
Yeah.
All right. I think maybe we'll close with a dedication of merit. I was going to ask you guys, when I lead these, I tend to break up the meditations differently. So one time I did like the first two, and then we took a break, and then it was the second two, and we did a break. And then the next time I did like half of them, and then the other half. And this time I decided to try one whole one. And so afterward, if you want to let me know, because sometimes the rhythm of like how long you sit matters for people. And sometimes if there's too much interruption, it feels like you didn't get a chance to settle in. So this time I tried to give you a little more time to settle into the space in between being interrupted by my voice and having to transition and find a new person to think about. So anyway, afterwards. So let's close with a transfer of merit. If you're comfortable, you can bring your palms to heart center. May the benefit of this practice be transferred to all beings in all directions. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to those who need it most. Before you guys head out, our lovely host Marcy has some announcements.
Hello everyone, my name is Marcy and I'm tonight's host. We opened the Dharma Bum Temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice